So the title is Exploring the Innovative Journey of Heterogeneous Material as Sustainable Niche Innovation. It's a little bit a more complex title of the presentation. So maybe I start with an explanation what it is about and what my motivation is to work on this topic. So as Karl already said, I'm part of an organic plant breeding team. We are mainly breeding grain legumes in Switzerland. Our main focus is on peas. And we are also looking into we are moving into the direction to develop more heterogeneous material. May it be variety mixtures or may it be actually OHM. And but what we identified or what we just saw during the last years is that we often focus a lot on technical aspects, like technical plant breeding and seed production aspects, if it comes to heterogeneous material. But there are many other factors. I think here really obvious is that there is a political factor that you need policies to include if you want to bring this topic forward, but there are also other factors which can be considered. And so with those topics, I'm dealing in a PhD project together with ETH Zurich. And the questions in this, it's a really broad question we are looking at is how and under which circumstances is the successful emergence of HM, and here I say not OHM because I think about heterogeneous material in general, also for conventional breeding. How is it possible in plant breeding and food systems? And there are like actually three sub-questions, and the questions are who is currently experimenting with HM and what are the intentions, and who's supporting this, like who has the intention to support HM, and what is the broader frame in which HMs are developed, like what is the landscape we are in at the moment. This means what is let's say, the entire agriculture and food system in Europe, and what functions can an HM have in this system. So there's a tool which I'm using for this analysis. It's called Sustainable Niche Management, and I will explain later why it's called niche. And it's a tool to find out what changes are necessary to support an innovation, and what transitions are necessary actually to bring forward heterogeneous material. And the focus of this tool is actually also to look onto and to reflect also onto ongoing dynamics, like what is going on at the moment in the food system, and how do we as people who want to develop heterogeneous material, what position do we have in the food and agricultural system? And it also looks actually into what is the broader landscape in which we want to place this innovation. This is now quite theoretically. This is also a little bit theoretically, but you will have the presentation afterwards. Like this is just for you if you want to take a closer look. To make it short, there are two actually ideas of innovations in economics, and one is evolutionary variation in economics, and the other one is directed variation. This is quite similar actually to breeding. Like, let me just quickly explain the difference between this evolutionary perspective and the directed perspective. One says that if there's an innovation coming, for example, in plant breeding, then if the innovation may be a new breeding technique, whatever, is really good, it will just be successful by the technique itself. And the technique will just establish because it is, let's say, so good and so successful. But this is actually not the reality if we look how it most of the time happens. Most of the time, there are niches, and those niches are like protected, separate spaces where innovations are developed and techniques are developed. And you could say, for example, this is the research and development department of any company, because they're working there on on new techniques, on new developments, and they create a safe space where things can be tried out. And the things which are developed there do not necessarily have to be successful, but they're just developed. And we could say in the organic heterogeneous material development or research, we are in the same position at the moment, because we have a protected space where we can do experiments about heterogeneous material, about the policies about it, about the traceability, about the legislative aspects. So this is kind of a niche in which we are at the moment, where we are looking into how to develop heterogeneous material. Here is a graphic, and maybe it's easier to understand the system, how it works if we look into this graphic. So we have here those three levels. This down here is the niche, where we are working on our heterogeneous material, and we are doing research, and we are developing new methods how to develop it, etc. And then we have it's called socio-technical regime. This is the plant breeding and seed production sector. So down here, we are developing something. And if this is successful, it will be taken up by the plant breeding and seed production sector. If we say that heterogeneous material, we show that it's working well, and that there are good breeding techniques and there are good policies to bring it also to the market, it comes from the niche into the socio-technical regime, the plant breeding and the seed production. And this whole thing is in a broader context, and this is called the landscape. And the landscape is our whole agricultural food system and biodiversity management. So what we see is, like, if we look into heterogeneous material, we have a large need to diversify our agri-food system and to have more resilient field crops. So from this landscape, there is a motivation coming to work on heterogeneous material. And now we are working here on this, how to make this technique working, so that it's actually at the end implemented at the plant breeding and seed production. Yeah. So why is it important to look into this niches, or to have a broader look into this? Because what we see often, if we look into the past, into new innovations and techniques, it's often that the focus in the niche, like in the development of this new technique, is too much on experiments and the push for certain technologies, and the other dynamics, which are also necessary at the same time to bring forward this new technique or this new method, they're not really taken into the process. They're not part of the process. Like if we go back, now I don't know how to go back. Here you have different dimensions in this graphic. You can see here the technological dimension, the cultural dimension, the policy dimension, the science dimension, the industry, and market and user preferences. And most of the time, and this is, I think, also for HM the case, that it's mostly focused on technology and science and policy, but the cultural aspects and the industry aspects and the market and user preferences are not yet taken into account in depth, in order to make this niche, becomes part of the actual social technical regime. That means that HM is really developed in plant breeding, like by big plant breeding companies or initiatives. And so if we look into this, maybe I skip this one, go to the end. So that's what I just explained before. And I did until now of what's going on in the HM development, organic heterogeneous material development, is that they're mainly publications, and they're on technology and science. And there's also a lot going on policies, on the policy level. That's what had in the first presentation. But if you look into industry, and we see that if I talk to breeders and also to management of larger seed companies, or also like small scale, actually, if the issue of IP regimes, so intellectual property rights on seeds, and is not solved, we are not going to work with heterogeneous material. And there's another cultural interesting aspect. It's the self-identity of breeders, that many breeders are still sticking to the variety as one genotype, and they have problems to think that heterogeneous material can also be a successful cultivar. So it's not that they do not trust the publications and that do not trust the performance of heterogeneous material, but it doesn't fit to their self-identity of being the one who selected a single genotype which performs best. So these are challenges which we see at the moment, and which are necessary actually if we want to, if we want to have HM on a larger scale. And yeah, actually, I'm almost at the end. So what I would like to discuss actually in the breakout session later is a little bit this broader perspective on heterogeneous material. So the first question is actually, what are our own expectations and visions? So where do we want to be with heterogeneous material in 10 years? What are our intentions? What do we want? What do we want in terms of who is applying the techniques we are working on at the moment? And then the second question is like, what are our social networks? Like, with whom are we working together? Who are our partners? And do we just want to have it like as a niche, so we stay in our niche and we just work together with the people we already have on board? Or do we also want to go to like bigger seed producing and breeding companies and discuss with them, like, would it be possible in their regimes to develop heterogeneous cultivars? And then the third aspect is actually which of the dimensions I mentioned before are already part of our research and our projects. So are there still dimensions missing where we do not look at the moment, which are actually at the end important to upscale heterogeneous material?